Office of Victim Services.
Please wait as we have the victims join from Central Office and also Anderson Remote Office.
Hello, everyone, and good morning, and welcome to One Civil Law. We are turning into a parole hearing in South Carolina regarding a 1991 murder committed by a woman named Susan Smith. Susan Smith drowned her young children by putting them in her car and allowing the car to roll into a lake. She'd like parole, please. My answer to that is go straight to hell. But she's going to try to tell everyone how she's a reformed woman. She initially said that she was carjacked and kidnapped by black people, if memory serves correctly. I believe the two ubiquitous black guys who did it. But it wasn't the two ubiquitous black guys who did it. It was her who did it. She killed her children by putting them in the car and allowing the car to roll into a lake. She did it deliberately and purposefully. Why did she do it? I don't fucking care. She's a child murderer. I feel like I understand as much information as I'm required to understand. I don't care what her motivations are. She did the murders. So, and by the way, of course, at the time I was living in South Carolina. For those of you who may not know, I grew up in South Carolina. So this happened kind of in my backyard a little bit. So I have strong feelings about it because this happened, when I was 11 or 12 years old, and I have very strong feelings about it. And so she can burn straight in hell is my feeling about the thing. So right now the parole board is just doing other parole hearings as you'd expect. They're not doing Susan Smith's right now, so we're just waiting for Miss Smith to come and tell us how she's all really, really sorry and how it was just, an unfortunate episode, and she was depressed, and she's seen Jesus and whatever other bullshit it is she wants to say. And my answer to that is burn straight in hell. I am not in a compassionate mood. Yeah, Miss Shamrock, I agree. I've hated this woman for 2 decades too. Longer than that. It's been 3 decades. She's the OG of crying with no tears. Preach. Yeah, you've lived in South Carolina yourself at Myrtle Beach? Yeah, I live in Columbia, or lived in Columbia at the time, I should say. I lived in Columbia at the time, so this was in my backyard. Continue justice for Michael and Alex, no doubt, right? I get really mad at women who do things to their children, and then juries and people are like, "Oh my God, the woman must be mentally ill." Like they there's a lot of people who seem to give women murderers compassion, where they never dream of giving a male murderer compassion. The inequity of it is what really pisses me off. Right, I was watching a sentencing happening today in which a woman was, found guilty today. She wasn't sentenced today, but she was found guilty but mentally ill of the murder of her kids in Georgia earlier today, I believe it was. And I get mad because I feel like in the same set of circumstances, no jury would ever dream of doing that for a man. But, it's a woman who murdered her own children. She must be mentally ill. I'm like, well, something's wrong with her head. That much is surely true, but that's kind of true for a man too. So this compassion and empathy and sympathy that's extended to women killers, where they're not really like full adults, where they infantilize the women. They're not really full adults. They're not really fully responsible. It must have been the abuse that happened to them. Which men get abused too, but no one cares. It must have been the abuse that happens to women. It must be how she was mistreated. Well, the same thing for men, but no one cares. But women aren't fully responsible for their own actions. They aren't fully accountable. And the infantilization of women and the attempt to excuse their conduct in a way that no one would ever dream of doing of a man pisses me off. You know, women want to be equal to men. Cool. You're equal. Congratulations. You murdered a child, you go to jail for, you murdered a child, particularly your own child. So like if there are different degrees of bad, then murdering your own child is bad. And here we're even talking about a more deliberate form of death. Like even if we wanted to try to like slice different kinds of death, like if we wanted to try to slice away, like say shaken baby syndrome, for example. Maybe shaken baby syndrome is somehow more understandable because it's just a person losing their temper and just shaking a baby really, really hard. And they're just impulsive in that moment. Maybe that's more understandable. But if it is more understandable, it's only more understandable by comparison of putting your children in a car and allowing that car to drive into the lake, which requires, more deliberation and more thought to it. And so, even if we wanted to try to gradiate this in some way, which again, I don't think we'd ever dream of doing for a man, but even if we were inclined to do it somehow, I'm not sure how any of that extends to Susan Smith or anything. And so the compassion and empathy and the she's a woman, she was beaten, don't you know? She was abused, don't you know? It's not really fully her fault. It's like, no, it's really fully her fault. She's an adult. F her. This is a victim of some crime right now who's giving a statement. I believe is who this woman is. Is she the, I'm not sure if she's the prisoner or if she's a victim giving a statement. I don't really care. It doesn't matter. It's not the case we're interested in. The Menendez brothers, because they're good looking white guys, fair point. Fair point. Although to the Mendez case is a little bit more factually interesting because certain defenses were allowed the first time and not the second time. But I do appreciate that there is some potential special treatment because they're good looking white guys. So I do appreciate that, if you're good looking enough, or even like serial murderers, Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy or things like that. Like if you're good looking enough and if you're charming enough, people are willing to allow a lot of things to go by the wayside. So fair enough. Pretty privilege applies to people of both sexes. I guess that's a fair point.
Welcoming him as another one of us. None of us ever foresaw this happening. And like Becca said, our kids have not been the same since. Their bond has not been the same since. My daughter watched something shortly after
a 3-year-old and a 14-month-old. She let her car roll into the lake in South Carolina with her young boy strapped into their car seats.
Girl has been the same since.
Susan Smith originally told police she was kidnapped and carjacked. I think by black people, if memory serves, but later confessed to drowning her children.
With any level other than her grandfather or her brother, she just...
Does majority rule on a parole board? To the best of my understanding, yes.
She has severe anxiety issues. I'm very grateful that they have not...
She's been trying to get out of crime since the crimes in 94. I said 91. Apparently it was 94. So I was 13 at the time, I guess, when this happened.
And I do not feel that...
The board is currently set at 6. Well, you still need a majority, right? So you still need four votes.
I'm sorry, but I
personally
did not think that
I guess you still need majority.
So to get out early would just be horrific to me. I think my daughter already knows that we moved to this area over the summer, and we were notified.
Anyways, we'll wait for that happen. Normally it's 7? Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense that normally it's 7. But a majority of 6 is the same number as a majority of 7. It's still 4. So we're just waiting. We're just listening to whatever case they're talking about. The parole board is having other cases today, as you might expect. The parole board is parole boarding. The feds got rid of parole like 30 years ago. And I think probably the best for it, to be honest. There are still some people who were sentenced before that, but they got rid of parole for anyone sentenced. The feds got rid of parole for anyone sentenced more than 30 years ago or something like that. So we don't have this exercise in the Fed. You still get good credit time. So you can get a 15% discount for being a good boy, but you don't get parole. You have to serve 85% time. Yeah, she blamed it on black guys. Of course she did. It's South Carolina. Of course she did. Who do we need to make a villain? Let's make it some black guys. No shit. I had a wreck with your kids hydroplaning into a 12-foot deep creek. Well, see, though, you're not being a deliberate murderer. That's just a horror show, right? That's just a horror show. And if your kids had died in that situation, I would feel a lot differently about it, because I lost control of my car and, we wound up in a lake and my kids died. That's a horrible, horrible accident. Now, whether or not you're guilty of anything, we could debate, but you're not in intentional murder category. So I only want you to be criminally responsible for what you're criminally responsible for. Make no mistake. So if your kids die as a result of an accident, or they die as a result of some other horrible situation, that's a horrible situation. My sympathy and empathy is going to go a shit ton further. Not so much sympathy or empathy for I deliberately allowed the car to roll into the lake, though. So those are not comparable situations. And so I don't see how the one reads onto the other, but thank you for sharing. I'm sure it was a horrific experience. And thank you for sharing. You live in Aiken? Yeah, I mean, I understand.
Very brave young woman, both of you, for joining us, and we thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. And your sister is very fortunate to have such a great sister. So thank you for being here today. We really are very sorry for all that you have been through, and we wish you all the very best. If nobody else has anything that they would like to share, if you all will exit the room, so we'll have an answer for you later today. Ladies, here, you can exit with these ladies right over here. Thank you so much. We wish you well. Thank you, ladies in Anderson.
House of Cards was more true than false. Could well be. Could well be. South Carolina is a wonderful state.
Anderson remote site is clear.
The room at Central is clear.
Yeah.
Mr. Mackey.
That doesn't look real good. The parole board wasn't feeling that particular vote on that particular case. The parole board wasn't feeling really very generous. We'll get you an answer later today, as in about 5 seconds from now. Yeah, the parole board's not feeling that one. Next.
Thomas will be denied parole. The vote is unanimous. Numbers 1, 4, 5, and 6. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next case will be case number 7, James Brewton Jr. Case number 7.
Brewton, we hope you're doing well today. Please tell us what you have done to get ready for parole.
Well, I understand I've been taking the trade and acting.
What trade have you been working on?
I'm doing auto body.
Okay, is that something that you would want to do on the outside?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do
He
you
wants to be
have
a car
place to
mechanic.
live, sir?
Fair enough.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And where's that?
120 Westover Drive with my aunt, Mary Mountain Lane, Brewton.
All right, Mr. Brewton, were you under the influence of drugs or alcohol when you committed this murder?
Alcohol, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what have you done about that?
Just did a little bit of light murder. But I'd like to be an auto mechanic now. Okay.
Classes since I've been in.
Okay, how do you feel about the crime that you committed?
I hate it happened. I'm very sorry that it happened. It was a decision I shouldn't have never made.
What's the most important thing that
I'm not really feeling the yes votes on this one either. I'm not really feeling the yes votes. It doesn't sound like it's going great.
By the law and rules and regulations.
All right, is there anything else that you would like to tell us today, sir?
No, ma'am.
Are there any other questions from the board? All right, Mr. Brewton, thank you so much for your time, sir. We appreciate you coming in this morning. If you will exit the room, we will have an answer for you later today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, officer.
Well, that was fast. that parole hearing took what? That parole hearing took what? All 3 minutes? Holy shit. Well,
Please wait as the victim joins virtually.
oh, there is a victim to join. Oh, okay. So we're going to hear from the victim now. Oh, the parole hearing might go on another couple minutes. Okay. At least do the speech from
Lieutenant
Shawshank.
Harwell.
I know, man.
Yes.
I know.
Yes,
Work on your
Please
speech.
state your name and your relationship to the case of James Brewton.
Yes, my name is Lieutenant Doug Harwell. I'm with the Spartanburg Police Department, and I oppose.
Oh man, I do love seeing that South Carolina Palmetto Crescent pin. I do have to say, I do love the state of South Carolina. It's a great state. It's a beautiful state. I love it very much. 3 out of 5 rocks kind of look like the state of South Carolina. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place. Nothing could be finer than to be in Carolina, man. And I do like that Palmetto pin. Good shit.
I'm reviewing the case. It's one of those cases that it kind of shocks you a little bit. I'm sure the board's looked over the case, but Mr. Brewton, the homicide itself is bad, but he hit him with a pipe, thought he was dead, come back later, seen he wasn't dead, hit him again, then after he was dead, he left. It just, Chief Thompson told us that, and he's mentioned it several times, that you can't rehabilitate evil. I think those actions pretty much describe evil. We think that he rightly deserves the sentence he got, and we just asked the parole board to let him continue serving the sentence that he earned.
Thank you, Lieutenant Harwell. We appreciate your time and your comments, sir. Someone from Victim Services will be back in touch with you shortly to let you know the outcome of the hearing. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you very much.
That was a very South Carolina
Please wait as
speech,
the room
man.
clears.
I love South Carolina. It's a great state.
And the room is clear.
Offense, murder. What are we feeling? Not feeling a lot of yeses on that one either.
Junior is denied parole. The vote is unanimous. Numbers 1,
Yeah,
2,
big ass surprise. Not feeling a lot of votes on yes on that one either.
Thank you. Our next case will be case number 39, Charles Tyson. Case number 39, Charles Tyson, and he does have supporters. One moment as both parties connect. Hello there at Tiger River. Confirm you are Mr. Charles Tyson.
Yes, I'm Charles Tyson.
Thank you, sir. And there at our support site, confirm you are here in support of Mr. Tyson.
Yvonne Tyson.
Thank you both for joining you before the board. Please wait for the chairman to address you.
Good morning.
My family lives in my parents live in the upstate, and my brother lives in Charleston. So I do love South Carolina, and I grew up in Columbia, and so yeah, I do love it. All right, what do you want, sir?
Particular, the Academy of Hope at Lee County, which was a violence interruption program that was established there in 2019 in an effort to quell the gang violence that was at the prison. I'm married, I got a wife, I got a home.
All right, tell us what's the most important thing that you've learned during your incarceration.
That there's consequences for actions, whether they're good or bad. If you make bad decisions, bad consequences follow. If you make good decisions, we expect that good consequences will follow.
Mr. Tyson, what, if anything, would you say to
North Carolina has a superiority complex compared to South Carolina? You think? Yeah, I'm well aware North Carolina has a superiority complex to South Carolina. North Carolina can stuff it.
I wish I would have been more clearer thinking. I wish I was growner. I wish I had a better understanding. I wish I would have listened to my parents.
Well, I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a girl who looked good I would call her. I wish I had a rabbit and a hat and a bat and a 64 Impala.
I haven't been high in a while. Since 2013, I do believe.
All right, is there anything else that
But
you...
if I was to be granted parole and I had to take classes or whatever y'all say do, that's what I would do. That's what I would do. Whatever you say do.
Thank you, sir. Is there anything else that you want to tell us before I give your supporter a chance to speak?
You, my supporter.
Sir, I'm sorry. Can you repeat what you said?
I said, my supporter right there, she can speak.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Ma'am, would you please state your name for the record and your relationship to Mr. Tyson?
My name is Yvonne Tyson, and I'm Charles Tyson's wife.
Thank you so much for being here today. We certainly appreciate that. Would you like to make a statement on his behalf?
Yes, I would. I would like to say that I've been with Charles Tyson for 35 years, and I've grown to know him, and I know his heart, and I know that he loves, he loves people. And not only that, during the whole 35 years, we've always talked about the wrong decision that he made and how he hurt the Joyner's family. And if he could do a do-over, he would do it. And, he's been doing a lot of good things. I know back in 2020, when they had COVID real bad, and not even the officers wanted to take care of all of the COVID patients, because at Lee County, they were all housed at Lee County. And so they knew that somebody had to do it, and the inmates needed help. And so he and 3 other guys, they went in and they took care of these guys that were, infected with COVID-19. And during that time, I contacted my church and we prayed 24 hours a day, because it was so dangerous, to the point where not even the officers or the medical staff wanted to go in and take care of the inmates. But they knew without a shadow of a doubt, that somebody had to do it, and they stepped up to the plate. And I know that's true love, because the Word of God says, greater love that a man would lay down his life for a friend. And that's what they were doing. And I was telling my church.
Well, Oh, wait. So how does that work? You lay down a life for a friend, but in this instance, I laid someone else's life down. I'm not sure that's really how the saying goes. Yeah, it's like, okay, yeah.
The inmates, that were infected with COVID-19. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that his heart has changed. That he
West Columbia, South Carolina. Woof.
And young ladies out here, in society, because he's really helped our kids and also the kids at church by hearing.
Pro tip, if you're going to show up to talk to the parole board, please put your phone on silent.
I really do believe that if you were to grant him parole, you will see. And if he could talk personally to the family, he would tell them how sad and how sorry he is, because he tells me that all the time, and we pray about it. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mrs. Tyson. We appreciate your comments, and we thank you for being here so very much. Are there any other questions from the board? Thank you both for joining us this morning. If you all will please...
People these days don't get song references. I think it's quite possible I irritated Melanie Little and or her chat, because I'm not sure anyone got the reference yesterday. And sometimes people don't get the reference, because we were talking about this person, Z, who apparently has something to do with being a cult. I didn't quite understand completely what was going on, but Z is a cult leader or cult related person, or otherwise cult, not a great person. And so I gave a $5 super chat that just said, if you're friends with Z, you're friends with me. If you're down with Z, you're down with me. Friends of Z, woo-hoo-hoo. And I don't think anyone got the reference. And it made me sad. People, my humor is unappreciated in my time.
There you go. We can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. I kept hitting the mute button.
That's okay.
You don't get it?
If
You don't get it? It's supposed to
it's
supposed to sound like this. If you're friends with Z, well then you're friends with me. If you're down with Z, well then you're down with me. Friends of Z, woo-hoo-hoo-hoo.
And I'm sorry, what was the last one?
Although it was originally about P, not Z.
Yeah,
but
the relationship to Charlie was my brother.
Thank you both. If you would, please wait for the board to address you.
All right, thank you.
Good morning. Thank you so very much for joining us. We are so sorry for the circumstances that brought you to be a part of this hearing, but we appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. At this time,
Mercy Cat says the most of the time I'm the only person in her chat who doesn't hate you.
And if
Ouch.
either of you wishes to make a statement, you are certainly welcome to do so.
We're definitely against it. Like we've been doing now for our...
The original song is Friends of P, but I was doing a riff, and yeah.
And watching, everybody used to come and help us with these parole hearings, either passed away or whatever. So I'm kind of now the only one left to handle all this. But I oppose it on two main reasons again.
Thanks, Tina.
The last several years. The first one being that he was my uncle, a family member. And he was like my big brother. And my mom actually asked me just now, how long ago has he been passed away? And I looked, and it's been 43 years now. And every single day, it seems like 1981 back in my mind, especially when it comes to this time of year. So that thought process will never disappear, or we get over it. Move on. As far as that goes,
I don't think anyone in her chat got it.
I loved him, and I wish he could have been.
I was
here
expecting
longer.
a few, replies, good one, Kurt, or nice reference, uncivil. I was expecting, a little bit of,
North Myrtle Beach,
engagement. I got nothing. I got nothing. No engagement.
I would have loved to go.
Did no one get the joke?
As you can see, that's impossible.
Damn, tough crowd.
But
as a family member, I definitely oppose it. As a law enforcement officer that's been retired now 25 years and provides security for under a proprietary license.
Oh,
under
thank you,
Florida
MG Law. That's
Church /
nice.
School. I definitely oppose it from that perspective, mainly because this guy supposedly had robbed my uncle one time already, then robbed him again, and the second time he ended up killing him, shooting him twice. And if that wasn't even bad enough, he decides to shoot at a law enforcement officer that was responding to the scene. I take that
doesn't sound good. You're not supposed to do those things. I don't know if you needed some legal advice, but here's some free legal advice, okay? I am now going to give you legal advice. Okay, don't rob people. Don't kill them. Don't shoot them twice. And then don't shoot at the law enforcement officer who shows up to the scene. Please don't do those things. Yeah.
That's forgiveness. It's more or less, hey, I'm a changed man. I'm a Christian. I sing. I got married. Blah blah blah, and all that.
Who am I going to reference next? Dinosaur Jr.
So
Maybe
like,
I will reference
he
Dinosaur
hasn't
Jr.
changed
What
one
of
bit,
it?
in my opinion, again, going back to where he wrote the book on judicial lynching. Making a mockery of our justice system, which we do have flaws. Being a cop, I understand the flaws that do exist in our justice system, but we can't let someone like that make a mockery out of it. And so, for mainly all those reasons, and other victims that have to deal with situations like this every single year and can't.
How about
move
green
on.
jelly?
Yeah, I totally.
Green gel sucks. Dun, dun. Green gel sucks. Big bad wolf. First little piggy,
done so badly to these us, and some of the words he even said when I was around. So I just definitely do not want him to be released out into the wild earth, I guess you want to say. But yes, I definitely deny that.
Thank you. And again, we are very, very
And the
sorry
moral of
for
the story is that a
circumstances
band
led
with
up
no
to be a part
talent
of this
can
hearing. But thank
easily
you for
amuse
your time and
idiots
your
with a
comments.
stupid puppet
Someone
show.
from Victim Services will be back in touch with you shortly to let you know the outcome of the hearing. Thank you, and we wish you well.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please wait as the room clears.
He wasn't a cop in this case. He just happens to have been a cop. So he wasn't I don't think he was a cop in this case, unless I misunderstood. I think he just happened to have been a cop who also happened to be a victim in this case. So sometimes the victim is also a cop. I don't think he was otherwise related to the case, but yeah.
Thank you. And at this time, we will pause for a 5-minute break. Ms. Hunter, if you can advise when the recording has been paused.
The recorder has been paused.
Thank you.
Recording has been paused.
5-minute break, and we'll be back
Damn,
shortly.
South Carolina. I missed that accent. My mom worked really, really hard to try to prevent me from having a South Carolina accent, so I wound up with a more neutral accent. I love South Carolina. I love South Carolina too. It's a beautiful state. I like the way that the low country. I like even the way the pluff mud smells. I like the grasses down there in the low country with the marshes. Very, very pretty. Up in Greenville, near the Appalachian Mountains, very pretty. Grew up in Columbia, Aiken. I have fond memories. How do you stop someone from having an accent? By correcting them. By correcting them so that they don't speak that way. Is South Carolina as humid as Texas? Generally speaking, no. I have some chili right now, but maybe next time I'll make some sort of gumbo thing in honor of the low country. According to South Carolina, I still have an accent, not just a southern one. Fair. The Spanish moss, you better believe it. Plus, of course, the angel tree. A very, very famous tree. South Carolina's got that going on for them. Plus, they still have their original mace from when they were a colony. I think they might be the only state that still has it. And they use it. This is such a great little detail. They use the mace to complete the electrical circuit to turn on the lights in the house chamber, which is such a nice little thing, because anyone who's like more familiar with like parliamentary systems, including like the British Parliament, they'll bring in the mace, right, and they'll put it down, like, and you'll see it, you know, in the chambers, right, because the mace is basically the symbol of the power of the chamber. And so South Carolina uses its original mace back from when it's a colony to literally complete the electrical circuit in order to turn on the lights, which I think is just really, really cool. I like that kind of shit. That's very, very cool. Carolina barbecue forever, man. I'm a pork barbecue guy. I'm a pork mustard kind of guy, man. That's what I like. So that's what I grew up with, was pork mustard. That's what I like. That's what I know, man. Yeah. Yes, South Carolina has a sword too, but it's a replica. Right. They have the sword, which they use, I think, for the same purpose in the Senate. But they still have the original mace. And the mace is an interesting like item too, because the House also has a mace, the U.S. House, although it doesn't look anything kind of like a mace does. Let's see if I can find a picture of the U.S. House mace, because it doesn't really look much like a mace. Yeah. There's what the mace of the U.S. House looks like. I'm not sure how much mace like it looks like, but they have the mace, and they use the mace to represent when the House is in session, and they put it in a different place if the House is in session, or if the House is serving as a committee of the whole, so you can tell where it is at one time or another. And if the House gets really unruly, the chair can order the sergeant at arms to start parading up and down the aisle with the mace in hand. I don't think they've done that in like 30 years. They threatened it once, and then the person like immediately backed down. But if the House gets unruly, they actually order the sergeant at arms to pick up the mace and start parading with it through the aisles to represent the authority of the chair. I'm like, that's pretty badass shit, man. I like that kind of shit. It's very cool. The mace of the House of Commons is badass. I mean, yeah, the mace of the House of Commons is much more like ornamental and much more cool. Let's see if I can find a picture. Come on. Get an image of this thing. Yeah. Yeah, the mace of the House of Commons. Oh, that's Queensland's parliament in Australia. There's the mace of the City of London. Holy shit, that's a big boy. The City of London has one hell of a mace. Holy shit, that's funny. The ceremonial mace at the Sneed. Ooh, that's pretty cool. I like that one. That's a nice looking mace. That's cool. And then also in academia, they have the maces. I Clemson did, I'm sure, and most colleges do, where the mace represents the authority of the college. And so during graduation, like one of the professors actually like carries the mace of the university and like the mace of the college to represent the authority of the college. So you got the academic maces. I'm like, that's pretty cool too. I'm a sucker for that kind of thing. I think it's fascinating. The mace is a symbol of power. The mace is a symbol of parliamentary power, more commonly. Yeah, the mace is a symbol of parliamentary power, more commonly. Judicial power is more commonly represented by the sword than the mace, which is funny, but you know, what can you do? Of course, the Don't Tread on Me flag is South Carolinian. The Gadsden flag, the Don't Tread on Me flag, which I really like, is South Carolinian. Arguably the first national flag of the United States, at least de facto, used as a naval banner during the Revolutionary War. I am a bit of a sucker for the Don't Tread on Me flag. I think it's a very, very cool flag. If we were going to replace the United States flag with anything, it would be the Gadsden flag. It's yellow. It's got a snake. It says "Don't tread on me." It's a pretty badass flag. Not gonna lie. So I'm not sure how many votes there are for replacing the Stars and Stripe with the Gadsden flag, but I do like the Gadsden flag. I think it's pretty cool. Who else in chat's with me? Is anyone else in chat with me? What do people think? Which is better? We'll have a poll. Which is better flag? Let's see what you guys. Which is the better flag? Stars and Stripes. Don't Tread on Me, which I'm not going to use an apostrophe for. I'm going to start a poll. We have the Don't Tread on Me on a license plate. I believe Texas does too. You absolutely should have Don't Tread on Me on a license plate. It's a very cool license plate. Thank you for joining me for this parole hearing. I imagine it will be ceremonially circumspect. I'm not seeing a lot of yes votes right now. Why would Texas have Don't Tread on Me? Because it's cool. That's why. It's because it's cool. Because enough people wanted it, and so Texas made it an option for money. Texas also has a Clemson license plate, which, you know, you got to have that, man. Why would Texas have a Clemson license plate? Because enough people wanted it and enough people paid money to get it. That's why. For money. For money. Go Tigers, you better believe it. 100%. My campaign to become Solicitor General of the United States is not going well. Trump appointed somebody else. Very sad. Roll Tide. University of Alabama is quite beautiful. I will give them that. I drove through the university. I'd never been to University of Alabama, and I drove through University of Alabama on my way to Texas because it was relatively close. So I was like, I just took a slight diversion to go through the University of Alabama.
Sorry, I still had you
I'm like,
muted.
it is a quite beautiful
My apologies.
campus.
The board is, I just need to confirm there is some other conversation. Is everything? Okay, yes ma'am, we are ready. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Hunter, if you can advise when the recording has begun.
The recorder has begun.
Thank you. The time now is 11:41 a.m. We're resuming our hearings. Our next case will be case number 34. Case number 34, Susan Smith.
Here we go, people.
One moment as Leith connects.
All right, guys, here we hear. I'm so sorry for murdering my children.
One moment as all parties connect.
Ms. Brown-Hennerhan, I do have a statement that I need to read into the record, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I have received this correspondence. It is addressed to the Honorable Chair.
Uh-oh.
That I will recuse myself in the parole hearing of Susan. Addressed to the Honorable Chair Kimberly Frederick, dated November 20th, 2024. Please be advised that I will recuse myself in the parole hearing of Susan Smith, number 221487. I was acting warden at Camille Grand Correctional Center in 1999, where inmate Smith was housed, and subsequently transferred to Leith Correctional Institution. I have determined that it is appropriate to recuse to eliminate any appearance of affecting her opportunity for parole. Respectfully, Geraldine P. Miro. Thank you, Mrs. Miro. This is accepted. If you would please exit the room. Thank you. Mrs. Miro has recused herself of this case and has exited the room. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have moved her site into the lobby briefly. And one moment as we admit all parties. There at Leith, ma'am, confirming you are Miss Susan Smith.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And Attorney Tommy Thomas, are you able to hear us?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Thank you. And there at the support site, confirm you are here in support of Miss Susan Smith.
Yes, can you hear? Yes, we can hear.
And you're here in support of Miss Smith?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you all for joining. You are before the board. Please wait for the chairman to address you.
Good morning, Ms. Smith. Good morning, Mr. Thomas. And good morning to the folks at Watkins. Thank you all for being here with us today. We hope everyone is doing well. Ms. Smith, I want you to know that we have received the packet of information that Mr. Thomas's office provided to us on your behalf, and we have reviewed that packet. So thank you for submitting that in advance of this hearing today. Mr. Thomas, are you going to begin, or is your client going to begin?
Yes, ma'am, I'll be glad to begin.
Yes, sir.
Members of the board, good morning. This is Susan Smith's parole hearing. This has probably been one of the most difficult cases that I have had to put together for a parole presentation.
I would think.
Just lots of different factors to consider. She's been convicted of murder, of course. She has served 30 years, and she was 23 at the time that this incident occurred. She was sentenced to life with the eligibility of parole, so that's why she is here today. I'm not really going to speak much about the crime. There are some things that I want to cover, and that's not out of disrespect. We were very concerned about that. Today is Susan's parole hearing, and so today is going to be about Susan, and I want to make sure that
it's all about Susan, I'm sure.
Important not only to her, but to this hearing and this board are presented, and I want to thank you in advance for your time to listen to everything. This story is really a mental health story.
Is it now a mental health story?
Susan for a couple of years, and we've been working on this case. One of the things when I first met her was, of course, trying to kind of figure out some rhyme or reason as to, you know, how these things have happened. And
you want rhyme or reason? She's a murderer.
Find and have,
is that too simple?
Someone come to see her on a routine basis for counseling, and also to try to help her, you know, through the daily things with Department of Corrections. As a result, that's kind of what I kind of came to the conclusion was it is a mental health story. It's about the dangers of untreated mental health. It is about the lack of insight, the lack of diagnosis into mental health, and it's about stigmas, old stigmas. Of course, I'm 68 years old. I remember those. Hopefully they're not as bad today. Susan was hospitalized as a young teen for a short period of time for mental health treatment. And not to disparage anybody, but her mom was telling folks that she was in the hospital because she had a strep infection.
Her mom's a liar
so
too?
Those were things that we didn't talk about. Those were things that were pushed under the rug, so to speak, because they were embarrassing. They showed weakness. I don't know what they showed. But they showed up and culminated in Susan. As a result,
I like the guy's tie. I'll say something nice. I like his tie.
Came together and produced some horrendous.
I don't really like the way his suit jacket is sitting on his frame, though.
Important to Susan, if anything comes out of this hearing, it's that people understand.
I'm not sure if it's I'm not sure if it's tailoring problem or something. It just doesn't quite look right. Is it just me, or does his suit jacket not look quite right?
Treatment. And there is certainly no stigma that should be involved in trying to better yourself and help yourself for yourself and for others, members of the family and everyone. Susan, moving on, Susan is a high school graduate. She has some college with USC Union. She has attended International Christian College, and she's worked on an associate's degree. She's still actually
She attended a Christian college. Didn't work very well.
Christian counseling.
Christian college and Christian counseling. Doesn't sound like it took, though.
If paroled, she would be living with her brother, Scotty Vaughn. Scotty is here today and very briefly wanted to address the board.
It's totally
the job for her. She has served 30 years, so she's been in Department of Corrections for a long time. Would be through vocational rehab. The PEP program is probation and parole. Would know it. And we have made arrangements for aftercare with a licensed mental health professional. You have that information in the packet that's been provided to you.
Nothing wrong with the glorious red T-shirt.
I took the time to look at everything, to look at the programs that she's been involved in, and I'm not going to speak about all of those.
Between us, who's wearing it better?
In the packet. The ones that I think are important and relevant today is the Farmers Group. She has attempted to commit suicide on several different occasions within the Department of Corrections. 7 Habits, Beyond Abuse, Jumpstart, which she is a great fan of. She does not have a drug or alcohol addiction, thank goodness. She has been active on Endovo and the CipherWorks programs. loss and grief, healing seminars, women's empowerment, anger management, self-esteem, and domestic violence workshops.
Self-esteem. The self-esteem must be
presented
lit.
a number of parole hearings. I first started with this thinking that it had to be different than normally what I would do as far as a presentation. And I came to the conclusion maybe this week, and it doesn't. I think it is, and I will stick with what I would normally do as far as the structure of my presentation. What I always begin with the board is contributing factors, because I believe that's important. We need to know what was going on, why it was going on, for the board to be able to make a informed decision about her parole expectations and her parole eligibility, and what kind
Incidentally,
of
who's paying for this lawyer?
One of the things that has jumped out at me, and I saw this last night in the media.
Who is wanting
will
Susan to be free?
Because she feels like it's important to get the truth out there. This is not about the love for another man. I saw it on local TV about how this was all about another man and him not wanting children. From what I have been able to determine, that is just not true. I have spoken with David Bruck, who was a defense attorney.
Okay, what do you think the motive is? Not that I legally care, but just out of raw curiosity.
A great source of information.
Out of raw curiosity, what do you think the motive is?
He indicated to me that this was a theory of a motive by the state. That's where we think it developed. However, this was never proven at trial, and it was actually abandoned by the state. So,
wow, the state didn't prove motive at trial.
The contributing factors in this case were multiple stress points. They converged all at the same time. And we're certainly not trying to say anything about, the horrificness of this crime. It is, and she was found guilty.
Multiple stress points.
We're trying to kind of maybe present to the parole board how these things developed and how it's possible that something like this could happen. One of the things that has been important in her life, and I think is a huge contributor to this crime, is the suicide of her dad at age 6. Horrific. Just horrific.
Which would have been 17 years earlier in the timeline.
How could he leave me? And I think it sets the stage for the beginning of some serious mental health issues, some serious depression, which just
I mean, I suffer from depression, and I have multiple stress points in my life. How many stress points do I need before, my killing people becomes more understandable? What is the right number of stress points? Okay. Just out of raw curiosity, MG Law, what do you think is the right number of stress points? Do you think I need 5 points, or is it 15? What do you think is the right number?
To get some sort of psychological help for her after a couple of suicide attempts, and never went anywhere. She was the child. The adults in the picture did not, can't blame them, I think it was the times, did not seek and try to understand the depth and the significance of this and what it was going to produce at a later date. Severe depression.
I have issues with depression.
Depression after the birth of her last child, which was also undiagnosed, and that postpartum depression that existed in a severe situation. Just in culmination, and I apologize for reading something to the board, but I've looked at so much material, and if I can beg...
If you read a Maya Angelou poem, I'm going to come through the TV and beat you to death.
Because I think it summarizes everything that I've been talking about, and everything that Susan wanted to talk about what happened. she said to me, and this was not in preparation for parole, I found this buried in a bunch of documents that had been provided to me. And it is from Susan. And she says, I believe this is what happened to me on October 25th, 1994. I lost touch with reality. My thoughts were not rational nor logic. I don't think I understood that if I allowed this car to go into the lake, that I would never see my children again. The finality.
I'm sorry, could you say that again, please?
That I would never see my children. If I allowed nor logic, I don't think I understood that if I allowed this car to go into the lake, that I would never see my children again.
Yeah, that's what I thought you said. Okay.
The finality of it was not real to me because my thoughts were so screwed up at the time. My mind, I thought, was doing what was best for them. I knew Jesus would take better care of them than I could. It was truly a moment of insanity. There are no easy explanations and not much understanding. How can you make sense of something that is senseless?
You can't. And why should I even bother trying? Why should I bother trying? See, this is like you're trying to impose on me. Why? How can you make sense of something senseless? I don't want to try. Why should I even be bothered to try? It's like I just want to burn the witch. That's my understanding. Burn the witch. It's very visceral and easy, and saves me a lot of energy and time.
And I think that shows the remorse that she's had. She's lived with this for forever since this thing. When I first met her and I would go and see her, remorse is difficult. You know, that's something with the parole hearings that I've presented for years is to how do you say, how do you demonstrate remorse? People do it in different manners. And I always look for that. I always ask my clients, you know, and look for the remorse. I could see the pain on her face. It was so difficult. Talking about things were extremely difficult. And not because she didn't want to talk about them, it's just because it was so hard to talk about them. So I think that she is truly remorseful for what happened. And I think
feeling the remorse from over here.
To bring these children back. But moving on to the next consideration in this presentation is really changes. What changes has she made in herself in prison? One of the things I think is important is that she has no prior history. Nothing that would lead up to believe that someone would be capable of a crime of this nature, which I think is also indicative of what their risk is if the board was inclined to allow her to participate on parole. I don't think that was as a risk, and I think that's what our counselor, who had seen her on a regular basis for a number of years, also indicated that it was very low risk. She's been IRC chairman within the institution. That means something. You're voted on by your peers, and it is an honor to be in that position. She has been a math tutor in education. She's helped numerous inmates obtain their GED. She's been in the character arts program, prison fellowship, which I think is extremely important to her. She's much stronger.
She's a math tutor. Okay, she's a math tutor. Okay, here's a word math problem for you, math tutor. 2 kids plus 1 lake equals.
Stronger in her faith than she has ever been, and that is a comfort for her. It's something that that she enjoys. It's something that is extremely important. Jumpstart, good program. She's been in that program. She would actually like to go to Jumpstart if the board would consider her for parole. He has been out of the program for a couple of years, and that would be, she'd have to do some other things for that to happen. So that's why we have chosen that she would go and live with her brother. Good, solid individual in the community, willing to help her in any manner. And one thing I've noticed from the family and friends is that we mourn with her the pain of this crime, but we still love her and we're there for her.
That's gotta be like just textbook chutzpah, right? We mourn with her the pain of the crime. Take pity on me that my wife is dead. I'm a widower because I killed her. It's like, it's textbook chutzpah, man. Holy shit. Take pity on me. My kids are dead. Holy shit, dude. All right, fine. Shit.
So she has that for her, and which is a great resource if the board was going to consider her for parole. One of the other things I've noticed is giving back to the community, arts and crafts. She's made arts and crafts that she's donated to charity. She's helped St. Jude's. She's helped staff members. She said that an insight into what's going on with her, stand on her own 2 feet, not to be influenced by others, live a better life, think before acting. And, you know, other people are affected by your decisions and your actions, and the importance of mental health. I think that comes back into what we're talking about. It's not an excuse, but it is certainly some indication or maybe explanation as to what was going on.
I really don't know how arts and crafts is an explanation of anything, but okay.
For my presentation is that I don't think she'll ever be able to forgive herself.
Well, that makes, you know, as to that much, Susan, we are in agreement. You know, I didn't think I was going to find anything in common with Susan Smith today, but we found something. We've bridged the gap. I found something in common with Susan Smith. Neither one of us will ever forgive you. I'm glad we bridged this gap successfully together.
To anyone, except potentially maybe a danger to her. Her medications, her mental health medications have been balanced well by the Department of Corrections. I think she thinks as clear now as she ever has. I think that she is able to establish goals and what she would like to do in her life. And I think on the top of that list is to give back and to try to help others. She said that no one should suffer in the way that in their treatment. There is help available, and she wants to help to get out and maybe help to promote that that concept that there's help out there. You just have to seek it. And she said she'd like to live a quiet life.
What she want to become, like a spiritual counselor? Could you imagine? Holy shit, you show up at church and this woman is your counselor. She's going to help you with your grief and stuff. Don't worry, I've been there. Holy shit.
She would welcome supervision if granted parole, and maybe that is the best thing about this situation. From that type of situation is that if she's granted parole, it is for life. And she will be supervised, and she will be monitored by the Department of Probation and Parole Services for the rest of her life. She said that she...
Well, I mean, while the Office of Probation and Parole, I'm sure, does wonderful monitoring, I can think of another institution which might be even more equipped to monitor her than the Department of Probation and Parole. The Department of Corrections comes to mind.
Would welcome that, because that is another pillar of stability that is available for her that she can reach out to. And she said that that would be a vital and instrumental part of her life. She loves animals. She said that would like to find a job helping with dogs and cats. I often ask my clients, if you could choose.
She wants a job helping dogs and cats? No, that's okay, Susan. That's all right. Thank you. I like my pets. Damn it. No.
And you could make these wishes come true. What would you like to do? You know, what is the job that you truly would enjoy? Often that's different than the job that we have. And I think that job for Susan is the care for animals and being involved in that area of help. In closing, I think that she has indicated to me that her desire is to make her life mean something, something other than the things that she has done, to make a positive impact in her life. I talked to somebody, I've spoken to a number of people, and I've spoken to one person that told me, they were at the trial.
Why are none of his clocks working?
They said that their impression.
He's got 3 clocks and none of them are working.
Living to die. I didn't really understand.
Also, why does he have 3 clocks?
I think the more that I have been talking to her and preparing this case, that maybe I do. I think that has been Susan's life, is living to die for the things that she has done. And I think that what she's asking today is to ask the board to consider a parole for her, so maybe she can make something positive out of a horrific situation. I want to thank you for your time. I know I've taken a lot of time today. I would just ask if you would please consider her for release.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas, and we appreciate all
Yes,
of your
ma'am.
comments.
Thank you.
And again, thank you for the very detailed packet that you presented. Ms. Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
what would you like to tell us today?
First of all, I want to say how very sorry I am.
Aww. Aww.
It's okay, Susan. Just talk with us.
I know that what I did was horrible.
At least she's trying to show some sort of emotion.
And I would give anything if I could go back and change it.
A lot of us would, Susan, to be quite fair. A lot of us would give anything to go back and change it. Unfortunately, you were the only one with the decision in that moment, Susan.
Ms. Smith, were you under the influence of drugs or alcohol the night that you murdered your children?
No, ma'am, I was not.
You were stone cold sober and still thought it was a good idea.
About working with mental health, is that helpful to you?
Ma'am?
Mr. Thomas,
I hear you.
Mr. Thomas talked about the fact that you were working with mental health, and my question is that helpful to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that something that you would be willing to continue with on the outside if you were granted parole?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Smith, your crime took a lot of resources from the law enforcement community. What, if anything, would you say to the folks who worked so hard to find your children if you had the opportunity to speak to them today?
That I'm sorry that I put them through that. I really, really am. And I'm especially sorry to the drivers that I had to find them. I wish I could take that back. I really do. I didn't lie to get away with it. I really didn't. I was just scared. I didn't know how I could tell the people that loved them that they would never see them again. I didn't know how I could tell David he couldn't see his sons again. And I'm sorry. I don't know. I know that's not enough. I know it's not, but I don't know. I know those just sound like words, but they come from my heart. They really do.
Right. One of the things that we review is your institutional record, and you've had some infractions throughout the years, some involving the use of some narcotics. Do you have any issues with drugs or alcohol at this point?
I don't. No, ma'am, I don't.
And you had a recent disciplinary infraction just a few months ago. So why should this board think that if we grant you parole that you're going to go out and follow the rules and the laws of society if you do not follow the rules within the institution?
Well, this last infraction, I was trusted the wrong person. This lady contacted me, and I trusted her. I thought she was going to do a documentary on mental health, and I really am not guilty of what they charged me with, and I have filed an appeal on that charge. And as far as your question,
I'm sorry, what now?
I've never been in trouble before, and the things that I have been found guilty of in here have been just stupidity. I know I made a lot of mistakes in here, and I have learned from them. And before this last infraction, it had been 10 years. Because I grew up and I knew that I needed to stop making dumb decisions, and I did. I knew it was time to grow up and do the right thing. I just made a lot of dumb choices and mistakes in here. So I know I've learned from those mistakes.
What do you feel is the most important thing that you've learned while you've been incarcerated?
Ma'am?
What do you think is the most important thing that you have learned while you have been incarcerated?
That people are important, that forgiveness and love, that family is important, and that decisions we make don't just affect us, they affect the people that we love. And not to take things or people for granted.
All right, is there anything else that you would like to tell us today that wasn't in your packet or that has not already been said?
I would just like to say that I am a Christian, and God is a big part of my life, and I know He has forgiven me, and it is by His grace and mercy that, and I have a lot of faith, and I live by that every day. And I just ask that you show that same kind of mercy as well. And I guess, yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Are there any other questions
Okay, thank
from the
you.
board? Folks at Watkins, I need each of you to please state your name for the record and your relationship to Miss Smith. Ma'am, can we begin with you, please?
Ma'am, state your name and your relationship.
What?
Ma'am, state your name and the relationship.
I did not, is it I?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Ann Curry, and I'm a long-term friend and supporter of Susan.
Thank you, Miss Curry. And sir, your name, please?
And state your name, sir, and your relationship. State your name and your relationship.
Okay, I'm the Reverend Tom Curry. I've known Susan briefly when she was a teenager, when I was called in for one session each, counseling about two different matters, once by her teacher and once by Susan. And I testified at her trial, in the sentencing phase, and I have kept up with her by writing her weekly for the last 30 years. I did this because I felt that she needed somebody to remind her that her whole life was not caught up in that one experience, but that she could put her life back together, because her life was in such turmoil when all this happened. And I think she's a
The question, sir, was what is your name and what is your relationship? Not please tell us the story.
different person now. And that's what I want to talk about when I get a chance to say a word about it. I have new hearing aids, and I can't always hear
Kill
your
me.
prayers, but my mind's fine, and I'm just a retired Presbyterian minister alone.
Well, thank you, Mr. Curry. We appreciate that, and you're welcome. You're welcome to make your statement that you would like to make right now.
All right. Okay, I want to start with her trial.
Mr. Curry, let me
because
interrupt
at
you
that
before you
point-
get too far into that. We are not here to retry her case in any form or fashion. That is not the purpose of the parole board. We are here to determine if she is a good candidate for parole, and if so, we would set the parameters of that parole. But in no way can we discuss the trial or retry her case. She was convicted of 2 counts of murder. If you'd like to speak to anything outside of that, you're welcome to.
Okay, Nina. I just want to say 2 things about the trial. I only went to the trial for one part of one morning to testify in the sentencing phase against the death penalty. And the 2 things that I picked up from the trial itself was, one, a prison guard who came, a female, who said that she had not seen him.
We can't retry the case in any way. Well, I'd like to talk to you about 2 things about the trial that are kind of bullshit right there.
She felt her remorse for what she had done was genuine. And the second thing was one of the jurors. The prosecuting attorney was pushing hard for the death penalty, and the jury voted not, and they voted life, as y'all have already mentioned. But one of the jurors said that she felt like that it would be harder for Susan to live with what she had done than to die.
Okay.
And I thought that was a true statement. And it certainly has been for Susan during her 30 years in prison, and especially the first part of her time.
Would you like to volunteer for the death penalty? Because I'm open for that, if that's the issue.
Suicide several times. And she had a couple of run-ins where guards were able to use her for their pleasure, that's a
Oh, it was the guards who were using her. Oh. She's just another helpless victim. She's just another helpless victim. She's just a poor, innocent woman taking advantage of so many things, so many problems in her life, so many points of stress. Her father killed himself, when she was 6. So many things. The guards abused her. Well, she's not responsible for anything. She's just a little innocent girl, don't you know? Fuck off.
A bad situation and was dealt with, and she was not the only prisoner involved.
All right, thank you, Mr. Curry. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your comments. Mrs. Curry, do you wish to say anything?
Yes, please, and thank you for letting us speak. I just want to say that I really think Susan is ready for parole now. She has surrounded herself with a caring support community that advises and encourages her, and she listens to them. As Mr. Thomas said,
fix your tie, sir.
Done everything she can to prepare herself to live outside of prison and taking courses and learning how to teach and caring about other people and working on teams and projects together. And thirdly, as both of them have said, she is not the young woman who went into prison 30 years ago. She is much stronger. She has grieved, is still grieving, will always grieve. But she's learned from it. And
What has she learned? Has she learned that, there is actually permanence to the lake? Has she learned about the lake? Is she an expert on lakes now? Maybe she can help that one judge in Washington with her lake-related decisions. That's what she should be. I figured it out. I figured out what she's now an expert on lakes. That's what she's learned. She can become an attorney, and she can specialize in riparian rights, and she can help educate people about the laws relating to lakes and water. It'll be awesome. She's an expert, man. It'll be great.
I wrote her for 30 years, once a week, pretty close to every week. And that is, the last 2 years, I've ended my letters by saying, Susan, you live in a needy place. Share God's love with those around you and with your other contacts, but always live in hope for your own
Littoral is lakes? Oh, I'm getting showed up by Bill. Riparian is streams, littoral is lakes. Oh, I'm getting showed up on my legal terminology. Holy shit. Thanks, Bill.
You will live on your own again past prison. And that's what I hope y'all will give her the chance to do at this time. She is a very different person from what she was 30 years ago. And I've probably been in contact with her talking about spiritual things, but also just trying to enlarge her life by telling her about what's going on in the world around her and in the Curry family. She's the same age as one of my children.
All right, thank you, Mr. Curry. We appreciate all of your comments.
Please stop talking. Thank you. Bye. Thanks. Stop talking now. We're good. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Anything in closing, sir?
No, ma'am. Nothing further than I really would ask the board to take the time to consider Susan's request for parole. I do believe that if we look at insight into things that we've done, and as far as things that we need to do to get out of the Department of Corrections and to try to make our life worthwhile or mean something, I think Susan is at that point. And I just again want to thank you for listening today, and hope you would consider our presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Thank you, Ms. Smith, and thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Curry. We certainly appreciate all of you joining us today.
Mr. Smith isn't going to show there?
Exit the rooms. We will have an answer for you later today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
One moment as the room clears.
Mr. Smith didn't show up? Maybe submitted something in writing.
And the room is clear, and we do have additional testimony facilitated by the Office of Victim Services.
Ooh, maybe Mr. Smith is
This
showing
way
up.
is all victims join from central office.
Ooh. Okay, so we heard from the pro-Susan camp. Now we're going to hear from the anti-Susan camp. Outstanding. The anti-Susan camp shows up in person. They have some thoughts they'd like to share.
Thank you. Can you move just a little further around so we can get everyone in? Thank you so much.
The anti-Susan camp has some membership.
Thank you. Good afternoon. You all are here for the parole consideration case of Susan Smith. Is that correct?
Yes.
We are so very, very sorry for the circumstances that brought you all to be a part of this hearing today. But we cannot tell you how much we appreciate you joining us and being here with us today. Thank you so much. Before we begin, I do need each of you to please state your name for the record and your interest in this case. Sir, can we begin with you, please?
Stand up.
You don't have to stand up. You do whatever's comfortable for you.
I'm David Smith. I'm the father of Michael and Alex.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
And I'm Tiffany Smith. I am David Smith's wife.
I'm Rebecca Smith French. I'm the aunt of Michael and Alex.
I'm Savannah Smith, and I am David's daughter, Michael and Alex's sister.
Austin Hughes. I'm a friend of the victim family.
I'm Tommy Pope. I was the solicitor in the original trial.
I'm Kevin Brackett. I'm the 16th Circuit solicitor currently and was a prosecutor on the original case.
Laura Hudson with the Crime Victims Council.
Mark Reynolds. I'm with the victim's family.
Billy Bailey, personal friend.
Kathy Bailey, personal friend.
Jeff Bailey, Sheriff, Union County.
Scott Cooper, Sheriff's Office, Union County.
Michael Cogdill, documentarian.
Rita Swan, aunt to Michael and Alex.
Doug Smith, Dave's uncle.
Thank you all, and again, we are so very, very sorry for the circumstances, but thank you for being here with us today. We do have the facts of the offense, and we've heard from Ms. Smith. Now we want to hear from you all, whether you were for or against parole, and if anyone would like to make a statement, you are certainly welcome to do so. Mr. Smith, would you like to begin, or would you like to conclude at the end? It's completely up to you.
Conclude at the end, please.
Okay. Who would like to speak first?
I'll speak first, please, ma'am.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
So I'm Tommy Pope. I was the 16th Circuit solicitor, and this was a death penalty case. And the reason it was a death penalty case, you know, the solicitor has that discretion, but the reason it was a death penalty case, you know the facts and circumstances, and I just felt strongly that had the black man with the toboggan committed the crime, people would expect a death penalty. If David Smith had committed the crime, people would expected the death penalty. And I thought it was very important that the betrayal that Susan Smith showed, that
Preach it, baby. Preach it, baby. Equal justice. Equal justice. Fuck you. That's right.
But I think it's important to note that
that's right. Susan Smith ain't just a girl in the world.
You may be aware
she's a cold-blooded murderer. Fuck that bitch.
Life in 96. We tried the case in 95. So the jury was asked, and the judge was required to instruct the jury that you take life and death in its plain and usual meaning. Carrying that forward, the jury showed her mercy. The jury gave her a life sentence. But one of the jurors, or more of the jurors, after the fact, and speaking to the media, said that they believed the life sentence was the greater punishment, because they believed that Susan should have to reflect on what she did to Michael and Alex, that she should have to spend the rest of her life thinking about what she'd done. The two fallacies in that logic that the jury could not have known are, number one, obviously we're here today, so life did not mean life. Number two, and you have it before you, Susan's conduct from the day she rolled the kids in the lake, the defense claimed a botched suicide, But she was able to save herself. She was able to blame a black guy. She wasn't wet. She wasn't injured when she runs to the house and concocts this story. Susan has always focused on Susan. I will believe to the end of my time that Susan made a horrible, horrible choice to choose a man over her family. I said the boys were in the car, her wedding gown was in the car, her wedding album was in the car. She thought in a nice package she could roll that away. If she could have put David in the car, he would have been there too. In a nice package, she could roll that away and start this new life with this other man. And she led everyone on, including
She's basically
David,
a family annihilator, which you don't usually see women do that.
Prison,
but that's basically what, she's basically a family annihilator. That's some hardcore, usually male shit. But with the wedding gown and the wedding album and the kids, holy shit. She was trying to erase her life.
Take care of her. Susan.
That's some really depraved shit you only normally see men do.
The evidence that you have before you, I think, tells clearly that she has not focused on Michael and Alex. She only has and continues to focus on herself. And so on behalf of this family, on behalf of justice and the justice for this case, it's not about
I either didn't know those details or I had forgotten.
But I know one of your criteria is the nature of the crime and whether the punishment is there. And I would submit for the crime she committed, the action she committed, that punishment has not been achieved yet. And so I would ask you to deny parole. Now, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Solicitor Payne. Appreciate it. Would anyone else like to speak?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chairman, Chair Lady, and members of the board, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. I was on the prosecution team that handled the prosecution along with Solicitor Pope and Speaker Pope now, who you just heard from. I wanted to bring to you a couple of vignettes from the case to help bring this alive for you. In the course of preparing for today, I've gone back over the case. I've reviewed the file. I've pulled some of the evidence out, which is in a closet just off my office. Evidence like the note that was written to Susan Smith by her boyfriend, the man she was cheating on her husband with, who told her in the note that he could not be with her anymore because he didn't want children, and that they had no long-term future because he didn't want children. And then 1 week later, she's rolling her car down the ramp at John D. Long Lake with her 2 children strapped into the back.
Most women, and I most men, I think, it's like, hey, would you like to choose me or would you like to choose your kids? That doesn't, no, that's how many words do you have for evil? How many words are there for evil? Wow.
She betrayed her husband when she cheated on him, and she betrayed her children against the laws of nature when she should have been sworn to protect those children. She betrayed them when she left them in the seat and rolled that car down, and she was not trying to commit suicide. She was trying to change her life. She wanted to kill her old life and start anew. She was wearing a sweatshirt that the man who she was cheating with had given to her when she was on TV 2 hours later after claiming that a black man in a toboggan had carjacked her and
spirited her
2 children away.
What does that even mean? Does the word toboggan have a different meaning than I thought it? What is it? What is a toboggan in this context? What a black man in a toboggan? What are we talking about? What? A beanie? Oh, yeah, a sled. That's what I thought. A sled. That's like.
How many black men in red Mazdas got pulled over across the country because they were looking for those 2 kids and they were looking for this fictitious man that didn't exist, purely a figment of her imagination. I was on the banks of John D. Long Lake, standing there with about 40 or 45 people, 50 people, as the tow truck from Greer's Wrecker launched its line.
A toboggan is a beanie? Oh, okay.
To the car.
Fair enough. It's a kind of hat. All right, fair enough.
Total silence as that car emerged from the dark water. Everybody sitting there hoping and praying that maybe it was a different car. Maybe it was a wrong car. Maybe the kids weren't in there. Not a word was said. It was one of the most haunting memories of my life, and it will live with me forever. And that's the last point I want to make. You're going to hear from this man.
It's not feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme. It's bobsled time. It's not that meaning of the word toboggan. Oh, okay.
And he's going to tell you what this did to him. I can't begin to describe it. I sat in court and listened to him testify, and it was heart-wrenching as he described that his hopes and dreams for the future were destroyed that night when she killed their 2 children. This didn't just traumatize him. It traumatized Union. It traumatized South Carolina. The entire country was in the grips of her lie and her treachery. The entire country. This was a global sensation. People were fixated on this. They're not the only victims. And on behalf of the community that I represent now, I don't believe she should ever be released from jail until the last person alive who remembers Michael and Alex is dead. And that will not be in her lifetime. She should never be released, and she should not be released now. His hopes and dreams were dashed. I hope you dash hers today and every 2 years hereafter.
Thank you so much. Does anyone else wish to speak? You're welcome to stay seated if you're more comfortable, whatever's best for you.
Great, thank you. I'm going to read what I wrote. Okay, it's easier, if you don't mind. When Susan murdered Michael and Alex, she altered the course of my life and my family's life forever. Having grown up with 3 older brothers, Susan was like the sister I never had. I was a teenage mom of just 16, so I looked up to her and even admired her. I thought she was the best mother to the boys, and I strived to be just like her. I would even leave my own daughter with her while I attended night school. Susan betrayed us and took the lives of those boys and then lied about it. For days, when she did this, she destroyed a trust in me that I've never regained. And as a result, I do not develop close relationships with others easily, in particular females. Anxiety and depression have plagued my life for years. I push it away during spring and summer as best possible, but it always creeps back up around Alex's birthday when it rolls around in August, because I know Michael's won't be far behind in October. And then the anniversary of their death on the 25th. Because in my mind, I always refer to this period of time as the sad months. Throughout my career, the majority of any time missed at work is around Michael and Alex's birthdays and the anniversary of their death. I stay in bed and sleep to deal with the depression. It's just easier this way, or at least it seems to be. Something as simple as taking up a new hobby turned into a nightmare for me last year. My boyfriend and I decided to take scuba diving lessons. I geared up with all the equipment, face mask on, oxygen tank on my back, stepped off the side of the pool into 15 feet of water and immediately sank to the bottom from all the weight I was carrying. Normally you'd remember to breathe and begin to ascend as I had studied for all the weeks leading up to that point, but nothing prepared me for dropping into a body of water and the feeling of being weighted down, unable to breathe, and seeing Michael and Alex's face. I immediately panicked, ripping off my face mask, sucking in water, and not being able to come to the surface from all the weight I was carrying. I was drowning, and I knew in that moment that was the closest I'd ever come to knowing what my nephews had endured and how horrific and scared their last moments had to have been. Something as simple as taking up a new hobby was yet one more thing Susan was taken from me. In over 25 years, I have found myself finding comfort going to the cemetery where the boys are buried, beside our older brother. I go there often and I will tidy up their graves, where people have left trinkets or gifts, and I talk to them. I go there when I'm happy. I go there when I'm upset. Rainy days, sunny days. cold days and hot days. It doesn't matter. It brings me peace just being there. But as a result, I'm not able to bring myself to move away from Union County because now I don't want to leave them. We have missed Michael and Alex's kindergarten graduations, numerous birthdays, birthday parties, summer vacations, Easters, along with annual Easter egg hunts at Meemaw's, Thanksgivings, Christmases, football, soccer, baseball games, proms, high school graduations, possible marriages, and births of their own children. We don't know because they never had a chance. They never had a chance to live a life of their own. Susan took that from them. She took that from us all. And now she wants a chance to be free after only serving 30 years. No. Life should mean life. So I'm respectfully asking you to please deny her request for parole. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
I apologize if I get a little bit emotional.
Thank you for the gift membership, Sammy.
I drove down from Detroit on Monday night, which was Halloween before of that week. And a young man, middle-aged man then, I'm an old man now, but the boys never got to. As Becky said, they missed a lot. They missed their life. Today they would be in their 30s. David would probably be a granddad. The boys were still here. I took my sister out to the lake yesterday, and it's a beautiful drive out there. I was just thinking, all that time she had time to change her mind, to stop and turn around and not go through with it, but she did. And then the boys were gone. A year later, I came back down for the trial. Tommy Pope did a good job. They proved that she was guilty. During the sentencing trial, they came back and recommended life. Tommy had argued for the death penalty. The family was for death penalty. They come back and recommended life. But we said, well, we'll live with it. You know, she'll have to live with it every day for the rest of her life. So we were satisfied with life, but we do not want a parole. We were against any parole for her. And then two other items going back 30 years. The Friday morning after apologize.
Take your time.
But the Friday morning after David, his dad, my brother's wife, and I, the four of us, were sitting at Holcomb Funeral Home in Union and discussing the funeral arrangements. David asked to see the boys, and Mr. Holcomb had a funny look on his face, and he said, "Mr. Smith, could I see you?" So we went out, and he said, "You know, your nephew can't see the boys." And he told me why. He said, "You know, the boys were in the water for 9 days." So I went back and told David, I said, "You know, it's better that you don't see the boys." And I think deep down he understood why. The next day, Saturday, three of us, David, his dad, and I went out to the Bougainville United Methodist Church Cemetery and to look where the boys are going to be buried. And David's brother, Danny, who had died 3 years earlier, was buried there. David wanted his boys buried next to his brother, their uncle. But the way the cemetery is laid out, there was no room for the boys to be put next to Danny. So I found the cemetery custodian and asked him if it were possible to move Danny. And he said, well, yes, if that's what the family wants, we can move Danny. So I went back and told my brother. Said, you know, David wants the boys to be next to their uncle. Would you have a problem if we moved Danny? And he said no. So if you go out to the cemetery, you'll find that Danny and the boys are side by side.
Yeah, that got pretty real fast there, didn't it?
Does anyone else wish to speak?
Yes, I'll go, please.
Yes, ma'am.
So as David's wife, I have stood by him for the last 30 years and watched his pain, his suffering, his dark days that you cannot imagine. It's been hard as a loving wife to stand back and watch him suffer the pain that he has gone through. To not want to get out of bed some days. To not be able to get out of bed. Because the pain was so much for him. And for 30 years we had thought this day would never come. But yet here we are.
Yep, 30 years went by real fast, didn't it?
I don't feel that it's time for her to be let out because she took 2 lives. She didn't just
30 years ago.
She took 2 precious little boys that we haven't been able to watch grow up.
30 years, ma'am.
And as Becky stated earlier, all the things that we've missed out on because of them not being here, all the things they missed out on growing up and doing. And for her to be in prison for the last 30 years, you would think that she would have thought about what she's done. She would have said, I'm sorry. But she hasn't said, I'm sorry. She hasn't even called him. She hasn't even told him she was sorry. Much less the world. For 9 days, all I can think about is how much she lied and manipulated everybody. The whole world. I watched it and believed her myself. I wanted her to be telling the truth. But to be betrayed by her lies. And that just makes me feel like if she could do that then, whatever she's told you today, I'm sure were probably lies as well.
Her character's not great.
In her last 30 years, what she does in prison, she's all about herself. It's all about what she can do to make her life better. And Michael and Alice didn't get a chance at life. They were forced the death penalty. She took that from them. The lives of this family has been forever changed. It caused us to be a little overprotective of our now daughter. A little bit more than we probably should have been. Because we were afraid something might happen to her. It's changed the way we look at life. It's changed the way that we look at everybody. Who can I trust? For a long time, I didn't trust a lot of people. I had to be careful, around certain people. I didn't know if I could trust them or not. because of her lies. So to help give this family some peace, it would be best if Susan stayed behind bars and stay in prison for the rest of her life. I respectfully ask you to keep her in. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Does anyone else wish to speak for Mr. Smith? Sheriff, anyone? Yes, ma'am.
Forgive me.
This is his sister, I believe.
Most of what I have to say is going to be pretty redundant. But
Sister of the deceased?
primarily, I would just like to focus on, since I came after the fact, what I had stolen from me was 2 older brothers, the good and the bad of having older siblings. And I now try to use my life as a way to live for them. And growing up, I didn't quite understand it my whole life, but when I finally did, I felt like I had witnessed it, like I was there. The pain that not only was caused to me in like a domino effect, but what I have seen firsthand with my father, my aunt, and our whole hometown. We can no longer say that we're from Union County without Susan's actions being brought up.
Fair. Fair.
And just for the sake of all of us and our whole community, I ask that you deny her request.
Mr. Smith, you're welcome to stay seated if you want to come down.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee. It's been a tough 30 years. I'm not here to speak about what she's done in prison. You all have the records and accounts of all that. I'm just here to advocate on Michael and Alex's behalf and as their father. You know, God gives us free choice. And she made free choice that night to end her life. This wasn't a tragic mistake. It wasn't something that she didn't mean to do. She purposely meant to end her life. I never have felt any remorse from her for it. She's never expressed any to me. I never seen it on paper. No, you've heard, she changed my life for the rest of my life that night.
Yeah, a little bit.
Some for the better, some for the worse, but what she did, not only to Michael and Alex, she came pretty close to causing me to end my life because of the grief that she brought upon me.
I would think so. Yeah.
Thankfully, she didn't. I understand back in 95 that through the state's law, life imprisonment, 30 years to life. And now that's different, but at that time, that's what counts. I understand that. But ultimately, to me, that's only 15 years per child. Her own children. It's just not enough. So I'm asking that you please deny her parole today. And hopefully in the future, but specifically today. Not let her out.
I'm not seeing a lot of yes votes from the parole, I'm guessing. I'm not seeing a lot of yes votes.
But I will be here every 2 years going forward.
How hard is that on him? Every 2 years he has to show up and have his life ripped open again.
Thank you.
That sucks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Smith. Again, please know how very, very sorry this board is.
Every 2 years he has to show up and do this again. Have his life ripped open again
But we
because of this
sincerely
woman.
appreciate you all being here with us today. Thank you very much. And thank you for the reminder with the picture of Alex and Michael. They were beautiful children. So thank you for reminding us of that today. We wish you the very best. And if no one else has anything else that they would like to say, if you all will exit with these ladies over here, we'll have an answer for you shortly. Thank you so much for being here.
We'll have an answer for you very shortly. How hard can I press the no button? How hard can I press it till my fingers bleed? My no button isn't effective enough. I need a stronger button. The no button is.
The room is clear.
I wonder what it will be. Oh.
As a reminder, Mrs. Mira did recuse herself. Ms. Susan Smith is denied parole. The vote is unanimous. Numbers 1 and 6.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nature and seriousness of the crime and institutional record is unfavorable.
Thank you. The time now is 12:51 p.m. We will pause our recording. Ms. Hunter, if you can advise when the recording has been paused.
The recording has been paused.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This is Valerie Suber, Associate Deputy Director for Paroles, Pardons, and Relief Services. If everyone would just give me a moment to give some instructions. As the room clears from the board, I would like for media to pay attention. You are given the next 15 minutes for bathroom break. Please use the restroom. Prepare yourselves for the press conference. We will allow you into the building beginning 15 minutes from now. Once we check you in, we'll start the press conference once everybody is inside. If there are any questions, please address them to the staff and we'll get you an answer as quickly as possible. Again, there is 15 minutes between the time we're ending this and beginning entrance back into the building. Anybody who is in the building who needs to leave and get their cameras or phones are allowed to do so during that 15-minute period and then check back in at the front door. Thank you all so much, and the board will be at recess for lunch.
Thank you.
All right, well, there's the great state of South Carolina with its seal, who may or may not be in a love affair with Chandelier and Clock. But that looks like, yeah, so there might be a press conference. So we'll stay on for that for a minute and see if there's a press conference. But it looks like it's going to be, it says like 15-minute break. So it's probably going to be like an hour before there's a conference, I guess, if I had to guess. Like it's going to, you know, they're on a lunch break, 15 minutes to get your cameras and bring it back in. And then, yeah, so it's probably going to be 30 minutes to an hour. So, but we'll stay on for a minute and see what there's to say. But there's really not much more to say than that. I mean, the seriousness of the crime speaks for itself, and her institutional record is also unfavorable. So, but every 2 years they have to do this over and over again. It's like, that sucks, man. That sucks. So yeah, the vote is unanimous, right? The vote is unanimous. Everyone who voted no. So that's a unanimous vote, correct? Yeah. The vote is unanimous. That there is no dispute to that. As long as you have a quorum, right? As long as you have a quorum. So, yeah. Is it the same day every 2 years? Give or take, I imagine. Yeah, it would be on the anniversary. So yeah, roughly. It will be, perhaps slightly modified, I imagine, for, scheduling reasons, but, give or take every 2 years around Thanksgiving. Yeah. Isn't this the first hearing? Yeah, this is the first hearing. Yeah, this is the first hearing. Correct. It was 30 years to life, and so this was the first possibility for parole. She's not getting it. Look at that. Look at that bitch from 30 years ago. Look at that smug ass smiling bitch from 30 years ago. This is that whole duper's delight thing. She can burn straight in hell. She can burn straight in hell. Most first hearings on parole are denied? Probably. I mean, I would guess. Yeah, that's a rough Thanksgiving every year. That is a rough Thanksgiving. Although every time it's denied, you have something extra to be thankful for, so you got that going on. So every 2 years it's denied, you have something extra to be thankful for that year. Thank you, God, also that she's, still in prison. So when people are asking what you're thankful for, you got that covered. Why can't we dispense with theatrics? Because that was the law at the time. Now life means life, but it didn't mean that at the time. At the time, it meant 30 years to life. Which, incidentally, when people ask, does the life sentence mean forever? It doesn't necessarily. And this is one of the reasons why. Right? Back at the time, life meant 30 years to life. Now it means life. But, of course, she was sentenced under the law at the time. So she's entitled to parole. Incidentally, the same thing for federal prisoners. There's not many of them left because the federal system abolished parole 30 years ago, 35 years ago. It's been a long time. So there's not very many of them left. But, whatever federal prisoners there still are that were sentenced under the old regime, they still have parole hearings for. But, yeah, the availability of parole and probation has been modified significantly in many jurisdictions because it's particularly because of the tough on crime wave of the Newt Gingrich era in particular, perhaps, although Joe Biden also back when he was lucid and calling for stronger punishments. But yeah, they have supervised release in federal prison, but it's not exactly parole. Well, yeah, they don't have parole. They might have other programs, but it's not the same thing. The guy was right. If it would have been David, it would have been death. Almost certainly. Yeah, she got a bit of a pussy pass. She got a bit of a pass because she's a girl. It must be she's crazy. It must be she's insane. No one would even bother asking these questions if it were a man. And it pisses me off. It really does piss me off a bit when women seem to get a bye because they're women. It's like, aren't women supposed to be equal? I thought they were supposed to be equal. But, there was a person found guilty today in Georgia where they were found to be, guilty of the murder of their kid, but mentally ill. And I'm like, no one would even bother asking these questions if it were a man. No one would even bother asking. But because it's a woman, it must be that she's insane. No mother would kill her kids. Well, why would a father do it? Do fathers not love their kids as much as mothers? There's something very infantilizing and sexist, and it pisses me off. Let's try to look at this in an even-handed way. Let's try to actually apply this in an even, neutral way. She drove her kids into a lake. She put them in restraints and drove them into a lake. She did it purposefully, although apparently not with the knowledge that it meant forever goodbye. According to her attorney, apparently she was unaware. According to her attorney, we could go watch that bullshit if we can find the moment. Her attorney says that she was unaware that meant forever goodbye. So let's see if we can find where he said that bullshit.
About that. Today is Susan's parole hearing, and so today is going to be about Susan on a routine basis. It's important to Susan. If you have that information in the packet that's been the packet. The ones that I think are in addiction, thank goodness. She has been active. I first started with, and always begin with the board is contributing factors, because I believe last night in the media. And I know that Susan wants to speak, and this how this was all to the source of wanted to. I know it's important to her to bring this to your stress points. The contributing factors in this case were multiple stress points. They converged all at the same time. And we're certainly not trying to say anything about, the horrificness of this crime. It is, and she was found guilty. But we're trying to kind of maybe present to the parole board how these things developed and how it's possible that something like this could happen. One of the things that has been important in her life, and I think is a huge contributor to this crime, is the suicide of her dad at age 6. Horrific.
Which was 17 years before the incident, because she was 23 at the time, so I can do math.
Just horrific. And she blamed herself. How could he leave me? And I think it sets the stage for the beginning of some serious mental health issues, some serious depression, which just kind of culminates and continues to snowball. And the lack of, recognition and treatment for this issue with her dad. I mean, it was like the old stigma of, we just tough through these terrible help for her. Never went anywhere. She can't blame them. I think it was the times. Did not seek and try. Depression after real. And if I can beg the boards, she said to me, and this was not in preparation for parole, I found this from Susan, and she says, I believe this is what happened to me on October 20th.
Okay, so here's her statement. Okay, she made the statement, and her attorney is quoting the statement from Susan. Okay, so yeah, let's listen to this bullshit.
Not in preparation for parole. I found this buried in a bunch of documents that had been provided to me, and it is from Susan. And she says, I believe this is what happened to me on October 25th, 1994. I lost touch with reality. My thoughts were not rational nor logic. I don't think I understood that if I allowed this car to go into the lake, that I would never see my children again. The finality of it was not real to me because my thoughts were so screwed up at the time. My mind, I thought, was doing what was best for them. I knew Jesus would take better care of them than I could. It was truly a moment of insanity. There are no easy explanations and not much understanding. How can you make sense of something that is senseless? And I think that...
Yeah, so she apparently didn't understand that it meant that her kids would be gone forever. And she did it for them. She did it for her kids. It was for their benefit, guys, because Jesus will protect them. She's so fucking evil. Sis, she's so fucking evil. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You want to hear that bullshit statement again? I want to hear it again, just because I can't believe the words are coming. This is her statement, right?
Irrational. I found, she said to me, and this was not in preparation for parole, I found this buried in a bunch of documents that had been provided to me. And it is from Susan. And she says, I believe this is what happened to me on October 25th, 1994. I lost touch with reality. My thoughts were not rational nor logic. I don't think I understood that if I allowed this car to go into the lake, that I would never see my children again. The finality of it was not real to me because my thoughts were so screwed up at the time. My mind, I thought, was doing what was best for them. I knew Jesus would take better care of them than I could. It was truly a moment of insanity. There are no easy explanations and not much understanding. How can you make sense of something that is senseless? And I think that...
So yeah, that's her statement on the issue about what happened that night. She didn't understand that death is permanent, apparently. She didn't understand that lake meant death, or that death was permanent, or it meant she wouldn't see her kids again. But she did it for them. She did it for the kids because Jesus will protect them and stuff. So yeah, that's her statement on the issue. And yeah, that's really all we need to say about that. Kind of as we say in the trade, res ipsa loquitur, the thing speaks for itself. So I have nothing intelligent to say. Okay, there is a statement. We're going to watch this press conference now that happened about 10 minutes ago, apparently. So I misunderstood the timeline. No problem. We turn our attention to this press conference, which happened about 10 minutes ago. No problem. Come on.
David is not going to take questions. I know they've told you guys that, but he appreciates you being here today and supporting the family. Obviously, it's a positive decision today, but David wants to say a few words to you. Thank you.
Wow. Today has been 30 years coming. Wasn't sure how to feel, what to expect. I know what I was hoping. I think, Susan, in the last 30 years, through her action, has continued to proven that it's all about her. What all this has done to her, how it has affected her. I haven't seen any remorse from her. So for her to think that I would even speak on her behalf, I do not understand that. But it's been such a tough 30 years for my family, for friends, loved ones, near and far. But today, the committee made the right decision and denied her parole, at least for another 2 years. So, I'm not looking forward to it in 2 more years to go through this again, but at least I know for now she'll still be behind bars. And for 2 more years, there'll still be justice for Michael and Alex. Thank you.
We've got Kevin Brackett, who was my deputy solicitor at the time. Kevin is now the solicitor in York and Union counties. He tried the case with me. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer. Yes, sir.
Are you surprised by the result today?
Personally, now I've got to speak for me. David and his family, he can speak for himself, but we were cautiously optimistic. I think, as David said, she's demonstrated that it's always been about Susan from the day she committed the crime. And so I think we're hopeful, we're happy. It's unfortunate that the law wasn't what it is now, that life meant life, because I mean, as we spent the last 3 hours together kind of reminiscing as a family, and we'll all be back 2 years from now, or as Solicitor Brackett said, as long as somebody's remembering Michael and Alex, we'll all be back here.
She mentioned living with her brother if she gets out. Do you want to see her back in the community?
From the folks I've spoken to in the Union community, they are ready to quit being the place where Susan Smith killed her children. I think the family members have said it's robbed them of their community and the love of their community. Absolutely, the best thing would be, if Susan was ever paroled, is that she would just disappear and go be anonymous somewhere. But unfortunately, we know based on her behavior that that's not going to happen.
No, I think, as I told the parole board, she traumatized not just the family, but she traumatized that entire community and left a scar on Union that will exist as long as people remember what she did, which is going to be for a long time. So I don't think anybody would be excited to see her return.
Yes, sir.
After having to seek the death penalty, or after seeking the death penalty and this ending up the way it did, what will it mean to have to do this every 2 years?
It is a torture for this family. It was a reunion of sorts. I've shared with you before that I don't contact these folks because we represent a bad time in their lives. But when I see them, I mean, I'll start crying now talking about it. The sad thing is that every 2 years, as David said, the clock starts ticking. I mean, 30 years seems like it went like this, but the flip side is that this is a strong family. David has put it from the beginning that it's about Michael and Alex. And as long as I can draw breath and be here to support them, and I know the family feels the same, we'll be here.
I'm not sure if you saw the
Yes, ma'am.
statement. I'm not sure if you saw the statement that Susan Smith delivered earlier today. She was tearful. She appeared remorseful. But do you think she's the same woman that she was 30 years ago?
I believe Susan is the same woman she was 30 years ago, when she laughed in the courtroom when the jury wasn't in and cried as soon as the jury came in. And I got no reason to believe anything different. We weren't able to see the feed that you guys saw, so I don't know if you saw. Kevin and I were discussing all the way from the day she called David Smith and he came out to the house, and he's on television, looks like a man who just told he lost his children, and Susan's excited about being on television. So I believe her to be the same. Solicitor, you may want to weigh in.
Yes, sir, I completely agree. You look at her record in jail and ask yourself, does this appear to be a woman who's changed her behavior, changed her life? If she were released, she would capitalize on this. She would attempt to monetize her fame. She does not need to be out of jail. She needs to stay in jail. These boys had 140 to 150 years of life ahead of them. She should stay there at least that long.
Attorney, I'm the Reverend, and we want to say we appreciate y'all hard work that y'all done, because the black families and a lot of young black men were being attacked, because of what she said, and you went down and got the truth. And as a minister, and for other ministers, I come to tell y'all, thank y'all for what y'all done.
Reverend,
David, we'll pray for you and your family too.
Reverend, I want to tell you I appreciate it. I've been asked over the years about the racial aspect of it. And I'll tell you, that community, they think because we're Southern, because we sound like me, that there's going to be an issue. That community handled that issue. A reporter asked an African-American lady in Union, what do you think about the community blaming a black man? And she said the community didn't blame a black black man. Susan Smith blamed the black man. So I appreciate your words here, and I know the family does.
I told him, when the police come, put your hands up and just say, I ain't done nothing, mister. I ain't got no gun, I ain't got no children. And the police were very respectful. They came and searched the house, they pulled the guys over that was in the red Mazda, and they checked out and they wasn't there, and they treated people fair. But we thank you, because you went down and got the truth out.
Well, I made a point of telling the parole board that those people, how many black men who happen to resemble the man she imagined driving a red Mazda in California or Colorado or Missouri, how many of those people got pulled over because of what she did? They're all victims too.
So you mentioned too, you said if it had been a black man who had been arrested and charged, he wouldn't have gotten the death penalty. If it had been James Smith, he wouldn't have gotten the death penalty. What made it different for Susan?
I think the difference
She's a woman.
for Susan Smith was a combination in the
She's
only
a woman.
way the jurors can answer that.
She has a
I think
vagina,
the
and that
trial
means that
was
she's
in
special.
And you're going to see the same people at the grocery store every day. I think that made a difference. I think it makes us uncomfortable. It's actually a lot easier to blame the criminal or blame the father. We leave our kids at home every day with our mothers, and we don't think about it, and so I think it was unsettling, and they wanted to think there was some reason. It's hard for us to grasp that Susan's sole reason was selfishness and what was best for Susan.
And it's precisely that betrayal, because people expect their mothers to protect their children and lay down their very lives for them. And it's precisely that betrayal that makes this case so disturbing and such a terrible crime.
How does the community move forward now after today's showing and knowing you still got a path ahead? How do you move forward?
I think the difficulty is for these folks moving forward. I think union.
I want to put her down like the dog she is.
Prosecutor union will always be the.
She's a rabid bitch. She needs to be put down.
Life.
That's what I think.
Where your prayers need to be, Reverend, is praying, as you said, for this family and for God's peace on them, because they're going to be dealing with it long after we go back home.
Put a gun to the base of her skull and pull the trigger. Keep it simple.
Remember how hard this family fought and what they've been through and how they stood strong for Michael and Alex. Thank you, guys. Yes.
Her attorney brought up her past as far as her dad committing suicide.
Yes.
How much do you think that played a role in the board's decision today? Do you think he thought about that enough?
I think the defense presented that, all the way back in death penalty, and I think that may have helped in mitigation. She went from Susan the monster at the time of the crime to Susan the victim.
Where's the word hysteria come from? Exactly.
But the truth is, if you peel back the facts, as horrible as that is, she made choices. It's like David said today. She chose. If it had been a botched suicide, she could have shown up at that house wet. She could have shown up at that house injured. She could have come and said, I made a horrible mistake. She didn't. It was all about what's best for Susan. And so those are sad, tragic circumstances may have made the woman she is, but the woman she is made a horrible decision and took 2 precious lives. Ready, guys? Good. Thank you for your time today. Thank you.
All right, that looks like that's about it.
And y'all did a good job.
I don't know if there's anything more. Oh, there's a little bit more. Some pastor wants to speak, I guess. We'll wait for the pastor to speak, I guess. Is he going to say something?
Okay, my name is Reverend Raymond Johnson, R-A-Y-M-O-N-D, from Mount Pisgah Baptist Church, Marion, South Carolina. Mount Pisgah, P-I-S-G-A-H. I'm associated minister at the church. And the reason I'm here today because I'm hurt. Susan not only hurt her children, but she hurt the whole black community. She chose to focus on the black man. And you had black folks there were scared to come out the house. When they heard a knock on the door, they throw their hand up. Hands up, please don't shoot. Ain't no children in here. Police was pulling people over on I-40, I-65, I-17, I-85, I-10, and outside the road there. But we thank God because we got to the truth.
Thank you.
Justice Department, she asked me for him to do it. Okay.
That's perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's it. And the media packs up, and I don't think there's anything more. I don't think there's anything more. So, yeah. So I guess that will bring us to the end of the stream. So Susan Smith is very rightfully denied her parole, and she can suffer and die very, very slowly. That will be fine. Oh no, Monday was leg day, David. Monday was leg day. Monday's my hardest day because it's leg day. I was cranking it out. Although it wasn't necessarily like there was a little bit of lapse because I think on my last set, because I've been doing I do 260 and then 5 I do escalations like wait, no, it's 280. So I do 10 reps at 280 on leg press. I do 10 reps at 280, 10 reps at 370, 10 reps at 460, 10 reps at 550. And I normally try to do 10 reps at 640 because it's plus 90 every time. So I think I did the math right on that one. But I only did, I think, 6 reps instead of 10. So I couldn't quite crank out 10 reps at 640 yesterday or Monday. So I was a little bit deficient on my leg press. Couldn't quite get my full 50 reps in my escalating tower. But yeah, Monday's my leg day. So Monday was leg extension, leg curl, leg press, calf raise, and something else. And then yesterday was supposed to be chest. It was supposed to be press and fly. And I went to the gym and I just didn't feel well. So I didn't really, I didn't do it. But I might go today. So yeah, it was a pretty effective workout. Normally Wednesday is my day off, but I could take a Pepto and go to the gym. So it's fine. My blood pressure is fine. My blood pressure is, I check my blood pressure all the time. My blood pressure is perfectly normal. So no concerns there. I also get blood work done on a basically quarterly basis, and other than, it's all basically bang on normal. So my blood work is good. My blood work is good. My blood pressure is good. Everything is good. Everything is good. Not every day is a good lift day. True. It's not leg day without squats. I don't really like barbell squat. I don't really like it, so I just do other things instead. So I will alternate between like leg press and hack squat. So I appreciate, but like traditional barbell squat is not really for me. I just don't really enjoy it very much. So I just do other things instead. And you can get a perfectly good workout without barbell squat. So, but I still try to do, other things. I do overhead press still. I do machine press, really. I do machine press, and I do cable row, and I do also dumbbell row, and I do yeah, but I don't really do squat and deadlift. So well, it is what it is. If you don't like it, it's because you're trying too heavy. I just don't like it. Yeah, I just don't like it. And also, as I'm sure you're more than well familiar with, like those exercises can lead to greater probability of injury. So I just prefer to do something that's a little bit safer. So that's me. That's me. But you know, you do you. You do you. You do your exercise, and I'll do mine. And if you'd encourage me, I'd appreciate it. And if you don't want to encourage me, then you can piss off. Because I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm just telling you what I'm doing, and you can either support that or you can piss off. But yeah. She was absolutely denied, of course, 100%. I don't like the way squats feel on my neck. There is that plastic piece that's called like the mantis ray or something that you can get that helps to distribute the barbell load a lot better. They don't have one of those things at my gym though. I suppose I could buy one and bring it to the gym, but it seems a little tedious. But you know, I'm still getting like a really good workout. So, you know, but yeah, I'll just do like leg press or hack squat instead and call it a day. All right. Anyways, I may or may not go to the gym. We'll see. I've been on civil law. Until later, my friends. I hope all's well. Cheers for now, my friends, and goodbye.